All right, we're back for another Free Agent Friday. Today I've got a great legal mind, business mind in Alex Sinatra. How's it going, Alex?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I love this. I love what you're doing with these free agent Fridays. It's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's been a great thing, helping a lot of people, and it's been fun because I get to meet cool and interesting people like yourself, and
Well, thanks.
you know, build my network up, and it's great. I've got a nice Rolodex of people to call in certain situations for every variety. Now I have legal counsel here, so
Yes, hello.
so let's start off. Kind of walk me through where you went to school and any of the degrees that you received.
Perfect. Yeah, I went to Texas A&M undergrad, so whoop, and I went to Texas A&M University School of Law, and so I have a BBA in marketing and I have a JD in law and a law license to practice in the United States.
Wow,
So,
that's great.
yeah.
At what point did you decide that was the path that you wanted to go? I mean, because really, you have two careers there.
Mhm.
On the marketing side and business side, and then the legal side.
Yes. So when I was an undergrad, I thought I wanted to be a doctor because my whole family's in the medical field. And so I did 2 years of pre med and I actually did really well, but I didn't like it that much. And so I decided, I think I want to work in sports. I really like business. So I'm going to go and switch over to Mays Business School. And when I did that, I'm like, oh, I kind of want to be in sports. Like maybe I want to be a sports agent, like Jerry Maguire, Lee Steinberg, like let's go, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, a lot of these guys and women are attorneys. So I should go to law school. And so I decided to go to law school. And then I did an internship in law school with an NBA agent, an NFL agent, and then another NBA agent. And I hated agency. So I was like, man, this kind of sucks. Like I went to law school because I wanted to be an agent and now I don't want to be an agent. And so I talked to one of my mentors and he's like, you can be an attorney and work for a sports team or work for a league or work for Nike or a company that has to do with sport. So I was like, you know what? That sounds awesome. So I did negotiation and arbitration and employment law and contracts and all of that in law school. That was my focus so that I could work for a sports team or a league or a company tangential to sport.
Well, I think it's a good point that you brought up. Is that internship really helped you identify what you wanted to do, and so
Yeah.
anybody out there in school right now, those internships can definitely help not only with relationships and connections, but figuring out what you want to do and what you
So
enjoy,
important.
because I think that's an important component of it too. So that's cool to hear. Walk us through kind of your journey from once you got out of school, and any of the positions that you've had along the way.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Right out of law school, I actually did like 60 days with this family law firm. They were like, if you like it, you can stay. Well, I didn't like it, so I left. And so while I was there, actually, one of my mentors, my connections from law school, he's the general counsel for a very famous family in Dallas, and they own football teams and they own soccer teams and basketball teams and all this stuff. And he said, we have an opening at the company, the family company, and if you want to come, you're going to do oil and gas law, but it's possible. There's like a teeny tiny percentage that you might be able to touch sports. And I was like, I'm 100% in. Yeah, if I can even pretend to touch sports, I would love to do that. And so they sat me at a desk with a Michael Jordan jersey that was signed behind me. And I like thought I was in heaven, right? I was like, this is the best day ever. While I'm like going through mineral deeds and like assessing mineral rights. I'm like, oh, this part sucks. But then, the golden opportunity arose and I was able to lobby the Texas legislature on behalf of the FC Dallas Foundation, the Dallas Cowboys, to allow 50-50 raffles at sporting events, professional sporting events in Texas. And so that passed. And so for me, I was like, wow, like this, 9 months of this project working for this family, like I got the thing on my resume that I need, right? That tiny little line that said, I worked for this family and I got to do this in sports, right? So it kind of solidified the fact that I wanted to work in sports. And then I went to a huge multinational company and I did employment law because the general counsel of the Dallas Cowboys, he's one of my mentors, and he was like, listen, Alex, like employment law is really important. Immigration is really important if you want to work in sports. I'm like, but I don't really want to do this. And he's like, no, Alex, like take the job. It's going to be good for you. And it was true. I got to do a ton of contract review, lease review, negotiations. I managed a team in India as well. And I got to do a ton of employment and immigration, right? So for me, I was like, okay, this works really well with sports. And I didn't stay there for a really long period of time because it was one of those like building jobs, right? And so I was like, okay, I learned what I needed to learn. I grew here. I was the second attorney in charge at a huge multinational, almost billion-dollar company. Wonderful. And so then I kind of did some things with USA Today. I still write for them. So that's kind of where I like stayed in sports. I write for USA Today and I do content creation for them on the NFL. And so then I did some.
Is your content creation on like, the law side?
It's
Or is it
both.
just in general? Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of both. It's a really hybrid role, kind of like the role I'm looking for now, right? Utilizing that legal degree and the business degree. And so I write on kind of what I want to write on and create the content that I want to create, but also the stuff that needs to be done, right? If it's Sunday and we have games, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I want to talk about the national anthem policy and I'm going to do all this research. Like, no, Alex, cover the game. Like, let's go. Come on, right? So I'm able to do that. And so I was utilizing that with all of the positions that I had in the law that weren't necessarily sports related. So I worked for a startup and I got to learn about that startup life. And then I also worked at a law firm part-time as well. And so I got to work with small businesses and understand the needs of small businesses. And then I worked for a professional soccer team. And that was my most recent legal position in sports. And I kind of created that position from scratch. I said to myself, okay, like I have a job right now, but I still want to be in sports in a legal capacity. So I'm going to reach out to this team. I'm going to tell them, listen, I am perfectly fine with having an internship in law. Like I'll just put that I'm a legal intern, do whatever you need me to do. Like you don't even have to really pay me. Like it'll be fine. And they're like, well, you have a really phenomenal background. You have a marketing degree and a legal degree. And you were represented by an acting agent for 15 years. So you're able to be in front of the camera and you're able to do PR. So we're going to pay you basically no money, but we are going to pay you. And we want you to come in as the attorney and a marketing expert. And I was like, okay. I mean, I guess that works. And my mentors are like, do it. It'll be great for you to have that on your resume. And that was my most recent position. And it was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So outside of that, tell me more about, I know you have like a podcast and do some other stuff as well.
Yes.
What's that all about?
So my podcast is called Your Potential for Everything. And it kind of emphasizes the fact that you don't have to be one thing in your life, right? So for me, I don't just ever say that I'm like, oh, I'm just an attorney or I'm just a marketer. I'm me. I'm able to pursue multiple things at the same time. And so this podcast is all about being a multi-potentialite, which is someone who can do that, where you don't have to have one answer to the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. And so I bring on people who are multi-potentialites. I bring on attorneys who are also fitness instructors. I bring on people who have started businesses, but they're accountants and they started, like a fruit business. Like there's all this different stuff. Right. And it's really fascinating to kind of be able to see that a multifaceted background is actually really good in this day and age. People used to be considered flighty or they didn't know what they wanted to be and they were indecisive when they liked multiple things. And now in this day and age where we have, all this technology and the ability to work on the weekends on your computer, right, and do all this remote work, it's okay if you have a diverse background because it actually makes you a better employee for any companies that you're working with or in. And also if you're creating your own companies, right? And so for me, I'm like, you know what? People need to hear that, especially during this pandemic time. It is okay if you don't have one answer to the question, what do you want to be?
And I still don't have an answer for that.
And you don't have to.
You know what? I just love business in general. And so, and I don't like to sit around. So I like to be busy. So I always have multiple things. I just got bored in the last 2 months. I went out and got my insurance license and real estate license.
I saw you got the real estate license. That's awesome. Good for you. Congrats.
It's something different. I'm interested in real estate. So that goes to show you I'm going to be 42 and I still don't have a damn clue. But
and you don't have to. I mean, every experience helps you, right? And so for
Yeah.
me, every time that someone was like, why are you going to work for a family doing oil and gas? Or why are you working for, a staffing company? Or why are you doing these things? Because every experience informs you and makes you a more complete person, right? You become more and more of a Renaissance person. And that means that when you look at a problem, someone presents it to you within your company, or if you're a consultant and someone presents a problem to you, you can see it from 15 different angles as opposed to just one very specific angle. And you're able to say, oh, well, from the marketing perspective, it's this. From the legal perspective, it's this. From the business perspective, it's this. And from the PR perspective, it's this. So my answer is informed by all those things, which makes it a more complete and better answer.
Yeah, and it's crazy. A lot of times when you don't even you think, man, what am I really going to get out of this, or how am I gonna? And then you have that aha moment down the road. You're like, man, that experience 5 years ago, put me in a great spot now. So
Exactly. Yep.
tell me, what's kind of like the biggest strength that you have, going into a new role?
My biggest strength is that I'm extremely adaptable and I'm able to quickly think on my feet. And so I'm I'm always the person that people go to when there's, a fire or the potential fire, right? I remember one time I was in the press box covering the game for the soccer team that I worked for, and I got a text message and it was like, SOS, issue in the locker room, like, come now, maybe bring security. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, my title is like manager of marketing and legal counsel, right? And people are like, bring security. I'm like, what? What's going on? Right. But I'm like, okay, like I can be there in, like 60 seconds. And I was like, okay, my intern's going to take over writing about the game and like live tweeting and doing all this stuff. Okay, I'm going to rush down. Okay, let me call the head of the team. Like, okay, meet me down at the locker rooms. There's an issue. And then I'm like, okay, like bring the police officer over, right? Just in case. And so I got it, figured out within like 5 minutes with like cool heads, like no one got into any fist fights, none of that kind of stuff, right? I just nipped it in the bud right away. But I was able to think about all the possible solutions, what all the outcomes could be, and then just kind of say, okay, proactively, this is how we're going to handle this. And I don't want this to end in a bad way. And it didn't. And it was like 5 minutes. I missed like no part of the game. I went back upstairs and it was like I never left, right? No one in the press box knew what was going on. And I'm just like, anybody want any water? So that's one of my really big strengths, that adaptability and able to think on my feet very quickly.
Yeah, being a great problem solver. I mean, it's important.
It is, especially in sports. There's always a fire.
If the fans really knew all the fires that we have to deal with,
Yes,
they might have a different look on it. What is
exactly.
on the flip side? Like, what area do you need to work on the most, do you think?
I think that I need to work on patience. And this is something that I have struggled with since I was a child. I wanted something and I wanted it now, and I wanted to get the thing done now, and I didn't want to wait for anything, right? And so sometimes my lack of patience makes my Italian Russian Italian Russian anger side a little fiery, right? So my impatience sometimes leads to a little bit of a fiery personality, which isn't always taken well. And so for me, I've learned, that patience is a virtue, and that in certain situations, it's okay if something isn't done the time frame that I needed it to be done, right? So I'm starting to realize that if I need something done on Thursday, maybe I say that the deadline is a Tuesday. And then if it gets done on a Wednesday, it's still ahead of my deadline, right? So I've kind of learned how to use that ability to kind of adapt my strength, right? To kind of help myself adapt with the patience and realize that patience is something that I really need, and that you're going to catch more flies with honey, right? Than you are going to catch it with fiery anger from my Italian Russian side, right?
Yeah, please don't yell at me again. So, how would you define success?
For me, success is making the world a better place. And so anytime that I interview for an organization or think about an organization that I want to work for, it's a company that's doing good in the local and global community. So if you're making the world a better place, then you're successful.
Nice. How about this is what I like to end with, is a fun personal fact about you.
Oh, a fun personal fact. I hmm, I once resigned from a position so that I could travel the world for 9 weeks. So that was really fun. Yeah, I was done with the with
Where'd
that.
you go?
I went all over Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Yeah. So it was really fun. It was 9 weeks of travel. I mean, there was some crazy stuff that happened along the way. I had to go to the hospital twice. I had a concierge doctor come to the hotel because I was dehydrated because I had just hiked and not drank enough water, right? Got food poisoning in Bangkok. So so that's something I love, that multicultural, the ability to learn about different cultures, right? And so for me as well, like I want to work for a company that is multicultural. I'm fine with relocating anywhere in the world, actually. And I want to be able to utilize my legal and business degree together. And I love traveling. So sometimes, people they're not amenable to relocation, or they're not able to travel for their job. For me, that's something I look for. I almost always ask in an interview, like, will I be able to travel? Is this position available in another country? Am I going to be able to learn another language? So for me, that's something that's really big, because with sport, you're able to bring together disparate groups of people from different languages and cultures. And that's what I love about sports so much. I love being able to connect with those people through sport.
It's almost like a universal language,
It is.
sport.
Yes.
So
It is 100%. And that's what I love so much about it. I love seeing children's faces when they meet players that they idolize, right? It makes me absolutely so happy. Like, I never cry about anything. And anytime I see a sports video that's heartwarming, I'm like bawling. And my friends are like, Alex, you wouldn't even cry like the things you're supposed to cry about. And then like a sports video pops up and you're bawling in the intro music. I'm like, yes, I know. I don't know how to stop that.
what was your favorite part of that trip that you had? Your 9 week trip?
Ooh.
Favorite spot?
It's a toss up. So I loved Hong Kong and I loved Dubai. And I kind of loved them for different reasons. So Hong Kong is like New York City on crack and steroids. And it's it's wonderful because of that. But the part that makes it really cool for me is that you can take 20 minutes and go to a most secluded beach and you wouldn't even know that Hong Kong was near. Right. And so it's like 20 minutes and you like hike over this mountain and you walk onto this beach. And I just like looked around. No one was there. I'm like, we were just in Hong Kong. Like, how was I just in like the city center and now I'm on this stunning beach? Right. And then Dubai was kind of the opposite. Like, there were beautiful beaches. I loved the beaches, right? The Gulf was beautiful, but it was like such high skyscrapers. There was so much multiculturality. I mean, I think it's something like 90% of the population of UAE is foreign, right? And it's only like 10% Emirati. And so for me, it was amazing. I
It
loved
looks like
it.
a cool place.
It's so cool. And Abu Dhabi is
So
really
far to
cool as
fly,
well.
I wouldn't mind going, but I hate to fly, so that's a little.
Ah, yeah. Well, I mean, you could take some sleeping medicine. You wouldn't know you were flying. Just pop some melatonin. Sleep. You wake up in Dubai.
That's what I need to do. Well, Alex, thanks for joining me. I love the business and the law background. So
Thank you.
excited to kind of see where you're going to land, and anything we could do to help, just let us know.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, just reach out to me. My LinkedIn's private, but you can send me an email at yourpotentialforeverything@gmail.com. And or you can send me a message on LinkedIn and I can add you myself. So just reach out, and I'm open to just about any type of sports position. I mean, I have a unique background. So just hit me up, let me know.